Having already taken a class with Professor Anderson before, I had a vague understanding of how it would work. Just like English 480, there was a heavy focus on project-based learning and what we as students could take away from this untraditional way of learning. Something that I wasn't anticipating was the use that projects like these can have in a social justice context. One of the most traditional assignments of the semester was a Twitter report, but it was still far from a normal essay. For this assignment, I used a Twitter archive to collect Twitter posts with the hashtag #VaccinesWork that were imported into a Google spreadsheet. It was in this spreadsheet where I analyzed about 100 tweets and put them into various categories such as their stance, what was their action, what was the purpose, what evidence was used, and whether or not media was attached. For me, it wasn't hard to pick a hashtag such as #VaccinesWork. In recent years, there had been heated debates about this topic, various news stories about disease outbreaks such as measles, and from this, a bunch of memes have been created. One thing that I found shocking with this project was the lack of scientific evidence being used. There was a plethora of evidence out there to support the claims of these tweeters, but it was rarely used. Instead, most tweets relied on emotional evidence, especially children. After looking at some tweets with hashtag #anti-vax, I found that this reason is probably because most anti-vaxxers use children in their arguments against vaccines. These tweeters were attacking the issue of anti-vaxxers by using their own main points against them in their tweets. This project allowed me to analyze the way people spread information and the types of evidence that are being used by people to try to sway others to their side. The next project that we worked on was audio essays. My audio essay focused on internet privacy and how politicians use our data against us. I used various audio clips paired with recordings of my own voice to support my argument. However, it was through this project that I learned how powerful an audio essay can be in delivering short but powerful messages. Social media users expect their information to be kept private, but how can we get big social media platforms to listen? Maybe it's time to hit them where it hurts: money. And money comes from having people use their platforms. Perhaps it's time to delete Facebook and demand that the government starts regulating these major industries as well as political campaign tactics. Enough is enough. It's time for a digital and maybe political revolution. Audio essays can be a great tool for calling people to action. They are short enough that you're able to hold people's attention, but long enough to provide enough evidence to support your claims. As someone that has never used Photoshop before, I found our next two projects a bit difficult. Not only was using Photoshop a bit of a challenge, but coming up with ideas for the memes and GIFs were a bit difficult, especially because they needed to be argument-based. Some of the ideas I got were actually influenced by previous assignments, such as the Twitter report. Overall, I'm prouder of the finished memes versus the GIFs, but in the end, I think it comes down to my ability with Photoshop. I spent hours trying to get one GIF to work before having to scrap the idea entirely because I couldn't figure out the technology. However, one thing I learned from this assignment was the argument capabilities of these platforms. It allows you to reach a younger audience, and in a way, it makes the argument much more sophisticated. It makes the viewer have to think about what you're trying to convey versus you laying out your argument in a typical essay. One of my favorite projects was the creation of an app. It was in this project that I was able to take full advantage of the social justice capabilities of this class. For my project, I focused on the issue of decriminalizing marijuana and how by not doing it, marginalized groups, especially African Americans, are taken advantage by the legal system. In order to fully get my argument across, I decided to force the players to play as the African American character, even if they originally picked the white character. This would make them quite literally take a walk in the other person's shoes. As the game is played, the argument is being subtly delivered. Rather than having an essay lay out all the facts and arguments for why marijuana should be decriminalized, this game runs through the argument in a fun and interactive way that will hopefully make the argument even more persuasive by forcing the player to play through the legal system that normally takes advantage of African Americans. I have enjoyed my time in this class, and I am sad that it is coming to an end. This has been by far my favorite class of the semester. This class and the projects that I have completed have created new areas of research interest for me. As we have played around with these different projects and platforms for delivering arguments, it has made me more intrigued about the role that digital humanities can play in a social justice context.